Summer is coming to a close, and that means, guys, it's time to go ahead and wrap up the month of July with a few surprises wrapped in there. Hey, what's up, bookworms? Welcome to August. But before we officially do that, we gotta close down the month of July and talk about all of the happenings on the channel for the month and name that little book of the month, which is oh so exciting. If you guys follow the weekly updates, usually I say it's not too hard to know, but I think it's a pretty close race this week. In fact, I might change my mind right before I announce it. We will see. We're going to go ahead and wrap up the month of July here, talk about what I read, talk about my book of the month, how things are looking on the channel, and goals going forward, and some of the most popular content. If you've been around to wrap up before, not much has changed, but just want to let you guys know in case you are new here, because we have had a lot of new people show up lately, and I do appreciate that. Let's go ahead and look at what I read for the month of July. Well, I completed 4 novels and 1 manga volume. Let's go ahead and go by those one by one here. Destroyer of Worlds by Larry Correia. This is book number 3 in the saga of the Forgotten Warrior. And I will say that, like, with the hype that was behind this book, I expected a little bit more, but that doesn't necessarily mean I didn't enjoy it. I did enjoy it. I've enjoyed all 3 books that I've read in this series so far. I'm anxious to start book number 4. I'm anxious for the end of the series, which is coming out the beginning of 2025. But with this one, I think it was another one where I just went into it with these expectations of it was just going to be just all-out epic fight, badass, just, you know, what you've kind of heard about this series. With this, it did slow down in certain places, and with the characters where it's usually a lot more action, it did kind of slow down a bit with those characters and kind of picked up some other things. But I think for this one, it was like, there are some of those side characters that I've been kind of, curious about to know a little bit more, and they kind of got like I guess you would say the starring role in this book. Like Jagdish was like the MVP, I think, of this book. He had probably my favorite story in this book. And then again, the fact that there is a romance in here that I don't hate, which is unusual because usually in fantasy books like this, I feel like the romance is a little bit forced. And was it predictable? Sure. But did I like it? Yeah, I think I did. In fact, there was actually 3 romances in the book, and none of them really bothered me. And again, when you have a fantasy series like this, it's usually not what I'm there for, but I don't mind it if it's done well. So I will say that, yes, another winner for Larry Correia there. The Queen of Bedlam by Robert McCammon. The guy doesn't usually write very bad books, and he continued that here. I did enjoy my time in 1700s New York. It's an interesting setting that he uses for this, and kind of did a nice little serial killer story here. And that's book number 2 of like 9, I think it's going to end up being. So this is the first one where I feel like, okay, well, he's setting up where this series is going to go going forward, where Speaks Nightbird felt like it could very much have been a standalone. This just kind of shows, okay, we're setting the stage for where this series is going to take place. That's what everybody's told me about it, and it did very much feel like a setup book, but I mean that in a positive light. John Dies at the End. This is my horror book for the month. Jason Pargin writing as David Wong, and David Wong being one of the obviously the voice of the character in the book, and you're kind of getting everything from his point of view, kind of recollecting some things. I did like the book. I think what I would say I liked the most about it is it was very unique. I have never seen another horror book like this one at all, and I think it did a great job of kind of balancing that fine line between horror and comedy, because it never gets like so funny that you can't take into the horror seriously, and it's got enough horror that, you know, those comedy bits still, you know, they land, but they don't take you out of actually being like, okay, this is some serious shit, though. It really is. So it's kind of like almost in that Evil Dead kind of way, in that, you know, hey, you can laugh, but, you know, some really gruesome stuff is still going on. I say it was a little more serious than Evil Dead, I think, but with this, I had a great time with it. I'm still kind of undecided if I'm gonna return to this or not. I liked it enough, but I don't know if I liked enough to be anxious to get into a whole series of it. So I do think it was fresh, it was original. I had a good time with it. I enjoyed these characters, but it might just be so wonky that I'm like, I don't know. It's just a little bit out there for me. But I did enjoy it. Again, when I'm reading new horror authors, I want to be like, okay, well, I know it's going to happen here, here, and here because I've watched enough horror movies. I want it to not feel predictable. What I say with horror books is at a certain age, they can't scare you anymore. And I wouldn't say this one was necessarily scary, but it had some really descriptive scenes that were like, wow, okay. But again, I think adding that levity to it made it an enjoyable read, and I enjoyed my time with it. And the ending did actually really surprise me with a certain character. It was actually really a big shock in a way that you would think, oh, okay, I can go back and see it now, but I did not see it coming like at all. So I enjoyed my time with it. I'm just not sure if I'm going to be continuing with that one or not. I don't know. I feel like it's something that, like, If it came up, would I read book 2 in that series? Yeah, probably, but I'm not like pushing for it because I've got so many other new horror authors I want to check out, and I want to check them out rather soon. And doing one horror book a month, you got to start being a little bit selective, even though I am getting more horror on the channel than I did previously. The Moon is a Harsh Mistress by Robert A. Heinlein. Now, this one was recommended to me by my amigo Jordan over at iWizard, and I had a good time with it. The only thing I'd read by Heinlein before this was Starship Troopers. And with this, I felt like it was really much a rebellion story, but in a way I really wasn't expecting, because it was like if you take like all the best parts of like Escape from Alcatraz or something, but then you add in HAL 9000, but he's kind of on your side. That's what it kind of felt like to me, a little mashup of a little bit of Arthur C. Clarke there and Heinlein. But I did enjoy the Uprising story quite a bit. I actually was on a trip to Illinois, so I had a lot of reading time, and I pretty much read. It has like 5 books in it. I read like books 2 through 5, like all like one sitting, because I had, it was my wife's turn to drive, and I couldn't sleep. I don't sleep very well on car road trips. But I did really enjoy my time with this, and it's Heinlein's something I'm always going to be interested in reading more. I still want to do Stranger in a Strange Land, and that's one that's been on my bucket list for quite some time as far as classics go. But I'm glad I'm getting some more classic sci-fi out there, because while this isn't up there with like Childhood's End or something like that, I did enjoy this quite a bit, and I can actually see a lot of inspiration that was taken from this for several things. I mentioned this one particular mission in Mass Effect 2 where you're escaping from a prison, kind of gave me those vibes a little bit, but a lot of Space Odyssey in there for sure. And the one manga was just One Piece Volume 28 of Skypiea. For me, with this, if you've been watching the weekly updates, I've been talking about it. Skypiea has been kind of a letdown for me, where I would roll through each one of these sagas just one after the other while I was doing this. The first one has been really kind of sloggy for me to get through. And it's another one of those where I say kind of like Destroyer of Worlds, where I think that the hype train for it might have been moving a little too quick, because, everyone, and maybe it's just because my oldest kid just tells me that Skypiea is like the greatest thing he watched when he watched the anime. So he had me really hyped for it, but it's just so bombastic and random. And look, I know that One Piece is like that, and I've enjoyed that so far. But with Skypiea, it's like every 5 seconds, 2 new characters are dropping out of the sky and fighting each other, and I'm supposed to know what in the hell's going on. So I'm sure that, Oda Sensei is a good enough writer. He's going to make me understand what's going on. It's just been hard for me to kind of get into a groove, where I usually with these is I'll read like 5 or 6 volumes in a row, and this, it's like, it's just a chore to get through one of them right now. Now, I feel like I am at the turning point of Skypiea, because I liked Sky Island, but Skypiea started off so slow. But they're finally going to me, I think, the big bad of this area, and I think that's usually when things turn around in a One Piece saga. But I'll get back to it here relatively soon. I just won't be going through one saga per month like I had originally planned. So how about that book of the month? This one was pretty close. As you can tell, I liked all these books. I wouldn't say I really loved any of them. So I felt like any of these 4 could have been my book of the month in a regular month. But for this one, I'm going to kind of go with the on-paper leader. It's kind of like you look at your preseason starters for an NFL game, and you think, okay, well, these will be the people that will lead the team the rest of the way, or this will be the favorite as the season goes along. For me, it was no doubt it was going to be Robert McCammon, and it is the Queen of Bedlam. Now, when I said I was let down by the Queen of Bedlam a little bit, I think it's, again, all these books had such hype behind them. I don't usually listen to that, because I say, your mileage are going to vary on these things. It's going to be different for everyone. But with this, I hear so many people that love Speak Sniper as much as I do say that Queen of Bedlam, they're finished with the series, or they're current with the series. I'm like, Queen of Bedlam might be my favorite in the entire series. Now, after I started talking to them, telling them, like, look, I really like the Massacre storyline, but I feel like they tried to throw like a second storyline in there that I wasn't like who the Queen's identity was. That was not as interesting to me as the Massacre was. And then when the Massacre reveal happened, it was kind of like, that's just not quite as exciting as I was hoping for. And it's not just because I was wrong. I was wrong. McCammon keeps you guessing in those regards. It did just kind of felt like he forced 2 storylines into a book where one storyline would have done. And while Speak Sniper, which is a longer book, never felt long, this one felt a little long. And that's unusual for me with the Robert McCammon story, because I do think he's an amazing writer. I think that everything I've read by him is, at least at worst, has been like a 7.5 out of 10. I think he's just incredible. He's going to be one of my favorite authors ever by the time I read more of his material here. And that's no different here. I liked way, way more than I disliked. I love the introduction of Beryl. I think that the dynamic between Beryl And Matthew is going to be something that I can't wait to follow for a while. But as I've talked to the people that say this is their favorite book in the series, they say it's because it sets the stage for everything that's coming the rest of the way for the series. It sets where the main, I guess you guys say, hub. Introduced Greyhouse, which is a character was just awesome. It introduces some of the main players that are going to be there the rest of the way. And so I think it's one of those that I'll look back on and like even more. But as of right now, while it is my book of the month, it had a lot more flaws. And I think, again, ℙ𝕦𝕤𝕗 was just so perfect. I mean, I don't feel like that book could have been any damn better. And so it just had incredible shoes to fill. So I like where he's headed with this. The prose is still great. I still really like Matthew as a character. I think that, he's powering him up the right way. Like in most traditional, I don't want to say just fantasy, but just traditional literature you have modern day, these characters pick up a sword. It's like, hey, it's a part of my arm. I know how to use this sword like the Greys. And that's not like that. He slowly goes through training with a sword in this and uses some of the things that he has innate ability for to get better at sword fighting. And I love that. I think that's a really, really smart way to do this character. It's much more believable than him just picking up a sword and all of a sudden he's Inigo Montoya. I love that. I love that he actually kind of slow rolled that through the book. And it was from something up here, that was actually made him a better sword fighter. I like that quite a bit. And I think setting up this whole like Avengers-esque kind of team is very, very exciting for what's to come going forward. And it might be predictable that I'm already like, okay, well, I can see what the love interest is going to be for this series. I think I'm here for it because I like Beryl and I like how she didn't put up with no bullshit. I like that quite a bit. That's a kind of character I feel like needs to be the foil for a character like Matthew to kind of keep him grounded. But maybe it's my redhead bias showing through. I don't know. You never know. But yeah, Queen of Bedlam, a very good book. Again, I have more complaints than I do with Speaks of Nightbird. But again, Speaks of Nightbird was just it's an all-timer. That's an amazing book right there. It's like one of his 3 amazing books. Boys Life, Speaks of Nightbird, and Swan Song are all just like 10s, So it's really hard bar to put it up against with those 3 books there. But again, I did like it quite a bit, and it was definitely good enough to be my book of the month. No reservations needed. So the Queen of Bedlam and just Matthew Corbett overall, guys. I hope you guys will check the series out because I think if you, even if you think that you're like me and you're like historical fiction's kind of hit or miss, I feel like this could be one that you could really get into, and learning about like 1700s New York is a lot of fun. So how about some channel growth for the month, guys? We crossed 120,000 subs, so that was pretty cool. And the thing was, like, I didn't even notice. Once you get over 100,000, at least for me, it was like, okay, I'm not really like keeping an eye on the count anymore. I update it whenever I do a new video. I'll put it at the bottom of the screen. And when I was editing a video last week, I was like, oh, I crossed 120,000 subscribers. How about that? So benchmarks are always fun. I guess 125 would be more of a benchmark than 120, but still really cool to see. So thank you guys. But we are still struggling post-hack, and I'm just going to have to accept now, after a few months of this, that this may be the new normal. I may have fell out of the algorithm to a point to where, this is just going to be it going forward. And if so, hey, it's been a fun ride. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. I don't treat this as a job. This is something that I do for fun. But, when you are goal-oriented and you work in data analytics, you like to look at these things. So, again, I'm thankful for everyone that's been here for years and all the new people who jumped on board. I'm happy for it. If the growth is finally slowing down, it's been a fun 5 years, and we will just get to keep rolling with what we got. And I am happy that you guys are still tuning in each and every week. 1,528 new subscribers. That's down 10 from June. So about the same. Yeah, and I don't think that subscribers has really been the problem. It's everything else. 357,000 total views. It's actually up 8,000 from June, but June was also the worst month I've had since 2019 on this channel. 44,000 hours watched, which is exactly the same as June. So with these stats here, I'm just going to keep on keeping on. Again, when I am goal oriented, it might bum me out a little bit, but again, I'm happy for what I have, and I'm thankful that you guys are here. So don't get me wrong, but yeah, peaks and valleys are what I always tell new creators on this platform. If you're getting bummed out that they're not seeing growth fast enough, it don't matter how big you are, man. It can hit anybody at any time. And you know what? Tomorrow I could get back into the main feed of the algorithm and things blow up again. You never know. You never know how this platform's going to work. So just keep grinding, keep working hard. It's all we can do, guys. You can't control the algorithm, but the algorithm must not control you. How about some most popular content for the month? I did 12 standard videos. I did 3 what I call short form videos and 1 live stream. Now the live stream was a weekly update, but I did do that one live. while I was in Illinois because I thought it would be fun. It'd be a fun little change there. But let's look at some of those most popular ones for the month. My top 5, as it were. Tired of waiting for Winds of Winter. How about some series that you can try to kind of hold you over? That's 14,000 views. Look, I'm a long time Song of Ice and Fire fan. I've been suffering since, gosh, I mean, I remember thinking that wait between Feast for Crows and Dance with Dragons was long, and it's nothing by comparison. It's been almost twice as long now, waiting for Winds of Winter. But instead of whining about it, I say, hey, here's some series I think Song of Ice and Fire fans will like. Now, I have to put the little caveat there that it's not saying that this is just like a Song of Ice and Fire. It's saying, if you like Song of Ice and Fire, here's a handful of series I think you will enjoy. And I also put some that people have told me are similar to Song of Ice and Fire, but I have not read yet. So if you're looking for some new series to pick up, I think that might be a video that you do like. My mid-year video, my best and worst of 2024 so far, that also has 14,000 views. That's a video that's kind of like, almost like your 6-month wrap-up, I guess you would say. And what I did in that is I talk about like my 10 favorite books I've read this year, or actually I think I cut it down to 5 this year. My top 5 so far, my top and my bottom 5 so far. And it's kind of a snapshot. They aren't ranked or anything like that. It's just kind of a snapshot of, what's been working for you, what maybe kind of lets you down a little bit. I think we all have those things where we're really excited for something and then it doesn't meet those expectations and you just kind of look at it and be like, man, what a bummer that was. That's how it is for me. I never want to just be like, hey, this book is terrible, that's why it's a disappointment. No, I have reasons where there are very many popular books that just didn't work for me, and I think that was the ones there. The biggest myths and half-truths about me and this channel. That's at 12,000 views. It was just one of those kind of, I like to bare my soul. I like to be transparent. I like to tell you guys things. And like, there's a lot of topics that get brought up that I completely ignore because it's not the kind of channel that I am. But I like to, be open with you guys, be genuine, and let you know how I feel about something. So if something gets asked or brought up a lot, I will address it. I'm not scared to do that. So that's kind of what that video was. It wasn't meant to be whining or saying I'm a victim. I'm saying, look, I hear this criticism. Here's my response for it. Some of it's completely made up. A lot of people will show up on the channel and be like, oh, I'd heard this, and this about you from Reddit or social media, and then I got here and realized you're not the boogeyman. So it was one of those things where I just wanted to address some of those things that come up and some of the falsities and some of them. Hey, you know what? Partially true. Yeah, I can admit some of those things are partially true. So again, just a video. It's not going to work for everyone, but I don't think you can make content for 100% of the people that everyone's going to love it. So I know I did get some comments that people didn't like those kinds of videos. That's fine. I understand. But again, I want to make sure that I remain transparent and tell you guys what is going on. Tired of big books? Try these next. It was very much a recommendation month. I am actually on a hiatus right now. That video had 10,000 views, by the way. I'm just kind of taking a break from big, massive books. Now, I say that as I'm reading Black House by Stephen King right now, which is 600 pages. But it's weird. I love Shogun. It's probably my book of the year right now. And it just wore me out, guys. It was 1,300 pages. And I was like, I want to get back to some 500-page books, So that's kind of what I've been doing while I've been kind of mixing up my genres right now. So I just want to kind of take a look at, hey, you're tired of these big books. Here's some ideas for you. If you want something that's less than 500 pages, it's not really difficult reads. Just brought up some things. The Star Wars EU, Dresden Files, things like that. Maybe take a look at some standalone horror, something that doesn't have a series. Look at some short stories, things that you can just kind of take as it goes, and they aren't really going to be a huge commitment for you to get through. So just, again, more recommendations because, I never run out of recommendations. And, again, in the end, guys, that's what I want to do is encourage you to read new things, read new series that you never thought you would, pick up some things that maybe are out of your comfort zone. I just want you to take risks and try new things because you can get burned out if you just stay in your comfort zone 100% of the time. And lastly, I let you bullies pick my TBR for the month of August. That's at 9,000 views. Just my monthly TBR, but I've been kind of trying to add in kind of a new theme to it. Like last month, it was letting some of my patrons pick my TBR. This one, it's books I've been bullied about for a while. Like people have been like, Mike, why don't you just read Black House? I know you didn't think that Talisman was that great, but I think you'll like Black House. Alice vs. Stephen King book you haven't read, for example. Or, Jordan and Joanna and Philip and many others for years bugging me to read, The Darkness That Comes Before, So it's one of these things where I was like, okay, look, it's a fun play. They're not really bullying me. Yeah, it can be tough on these booktube streets, you guys, but, bullying you with positivity about how great this is, and they think that you would actually love it. So that's kind of what the theme was for this month, and it was quite a good time. And I did read the prologue to The Darkness That Comes Before last night, and wow, that's all I'll say. Wow. And if that's a good thing or a bad thing, I guess you have to tune into the weekly update to find out. A couple of my favorites that didn't quite make the cut here. Star Wars EU. I love talking about the Star Wars EU. They call it Legends now. I'll always call it the EU. Really what I was saying was like, quit hate watching. I saw on my Twitter timeline, everyone was fighting about the Acolyte. Either it was the most amazing thing ever, or it was the biggest piece of dog shit ever. And look, Star Wars fans have always argued. That's no difference. But it wasn't like this. It wasn't just a straight civil war. And it was just like, why do you guys, you hated it. A lot of people, you hated this before it even came out. Why are you watching it? Stop giving it oxygen, you know? So I was like, if you just want Star Wars to be like it was, the way we were back then, you want that, it's there. The Star Wars EU, nobody took it away. They decanonized it. Big deal. Big deal. They're still there. And it's still the Star Wars that you know and love and grew up with. It's still there. And I kind of go through all the things of like, you don't like this about what's going on with Disney Star Wars? This is fixed here because the Star Wars EU is amazing. Is it perfect? Of course not. Of course not. Even the X-Files, one of my greatest shows of all time, it has some really bad episodes. You know, when you have this many books in the Star, I'm pointing out because they're right there like you can see them. Of course, you're going to have some misses once in a while, I think. But I'm just so tired of hearing people fight about modern Star Wars. Yeah, I don't like it. You know what? I don't watch it. That's how I got past it. So many people just hate watching stuff. And it's like, why don't you use your energy for something more positive like the EU, especially if that's the kind of Star Wars you're looking for? It's still there. And then recently I did King books that I haven't read, Stephen King books. I have not read every single Stephen King book, as I just said, with Black House. With that, it's just, I had a breakup period with Stephen King. And a lot of people have been asking me recently. I mean, I've gotten a lot about why haven't you? I was surprised to hear you haven't read this one and you haven't read that. So I went through it and I listed 10 books I hadn't read. And shout out to one of my patrons, Jason, who actually pointed out that Blockade Billy is in The Bizarre Bad Dream. So that was actually 11 books I haven't read, even though if you count Blockade Billy as a part of that. I haven't read The Bizarre Bad Dreams as well. So it was actually 11 that I haven't read. And let's kind of go through why. A big part of it was that breakup period. Another part of it is just exhaustion with some things, you know, and it's never one of those where I'm like, I refuse to read that. I just haven't read it yet. I mean, look at the shelf behind me. The guy's got a lot of books, you know, a lot of books. And, you know, I have missed some. And I did have a stretch of 7 years there where I did not read Stephen King because I was pissed off, you know. So again, it's a fun story to tell. I know not I mean, if you've been here for years, you know that story. But, you know, I do get a lot of new viewers on the channel, and it's okay. Sometimes I've got to regurgitate some of those stories, and I'm never shy to talk about Stephen King. I could talk about I could turn the camera on right now and talk for 4 hours about Stephen King, and it's not a problem for me. So anytime I can do new King content, I'm happy to do it, and I'm glad that got lots of good feedback on that videos. How about some channel goals for the month of August? Look, really, the only one I have, no crazy weather events. It seems like I've had a tornado that literally almost killed me. That's not hyperbole. And then we had a hurricane here, and that really kind of messed some things up. And then we went out of town to Illinois, and we had like a crazy rainstorm while we were there and on the way there. So it's just like, I just miss when we just complain about being too hot in the summer here. You know, I want some of that. So if that could stop, and we could, you know, keep power in our house and stuff like that, and keep, you know, no delays with work and things, that could get my reading schedule back on course. But just continue to mix up my TBR. Again, I like doing this, one sci-fi, one horror, you know, one miscellaneous, one fantasy. I won't lie, it's kind of like, man, am I really restricting myself to one fantasy book per month? But while that's not the new normal. That's just saying that's while I'm kind of, you know, on the sabbatical from large books and trying to mix it up. I do appreciate doing that. It keeps you from getting burned out, and I hope I can keep doing that. And look, in the end, it's just, I hope that Prince of Nothing clicks for me, because here's the deal. So many people have been excited for me to read that series for years, and now it's that scary point of, oh my God, what if I read it and I don't like it? I feel like I'm just going to let some people down. So we'll see. We'll see. I'm excited. Like I said, watch the weekly update that's coming this weekend, which will actually be my birthday, by the way. I think I'm going to do it on my birthday. My birthday is the 4th, and I think maybe I will do my weekly update, birthday update. I don't know, something like that. And I'll talk about what I thought of the prologue where Darkness Comes Before. Now, I'm going to finish Black House. It was just one of those things where I was kind of looking over the names, because the names in that are crazy in The Darkness Comes Before. But I read the first line. I was like, wow, that's really good. Next thing I know, I was reading the prologue. But I stopped there and just said, I don't want any distractions while I'm reading a book that dense. So I said, I'm going to finish Black House before I go back to The Darkness That Comes Before. But guys, that was the month of July. I hope you guys had a great month. What was your book of the month for July? What was your favorite video or your least favorite video that I put up in July? I would love to know what you guys think, and hit me in the comments. Let me know how the month went for you, and I will talk to you there.